forward. Yeah, I just wanted to kick things off very, very briefly talking about the strike and what's going on. I remember when I was a teenager and I was living in India, I was watching the 2007 strike unfold. I was reading all the blog coverage, I was watching all the news reports, and I remember feeling really inspired that writers could come together and fight for each other. And it was also really illuminating because that was the first time I learned how TV and film actually gets made, the nuts and bolts of it, and how obviously vital writers are to the process. And now here we are 15, 16 years later, and another strike, but you know what, it's even more inspiring. I'm really, really proud to be a part of this moment and this movement. When you hear about the writer's strike, you might hear some people describe it as existential. That means that we're not just fighting for higher wages and better working conditions within our industry, we're fighting for the existence of our industry. Especially since the advent of the streamers, these studios have found every single loophole that they can to exploit us, to drive down our wages, to get out of paying us residuals, to shorten our jobs, to eliminate our jobs, right? And to essentially make everything worse, all in the service of some cockamamie, I don't know, venture capitalist bullshit, short-term profits over long-term consequences. This isn't the only place we're seeing it, right? This is the story of the millennial generation and Gen Z and everything. So the thing is, what are we asking for? We're literally just asking to plug the loopholes, and we're asking to basically anticipate the threat of AI, also known as plagiarism software. Yeah. That's my kiddo, one of the reasons that I'm striking. Just very common sense rules and regulations. We're asking the people who are trying to make money, let us help you make money by saving our industry. And the studios have not responded at all, really. They've not met us at the bargaining table in any good faith or in any way. So, we're entering week 7 of the strike. We're all tired, we're exhausted. I saw another email for picket lines coming up this week, and I was like, oh my God. But I'm gonna be there. And I would really encourage all of you to try and make it out to these picket lines, to come join us. Everyone's welcome. It's fun. We order pizza. You get to meet people, and it's fantastic to see union solidarity. Every time I go out, I see IATSE, I see Teamsters, I see SAG, I see DGA. I see everyone from all the other unions and people who are not even part of the unions, but just part of the entertainment industry. They're there with us because if one union wins, we're all gonna win. Very excited for what SAG-AFTRA might do in the coming months. Our concerns, are very similar. We're rooting for you. I know you're rooting for us. So yeah, thank you all for being here. So excited to see this incredible panel of Asian American filmmakers at the Tribeca Film Festival. Here's the other thing. Okay, one more thing and then I'm gonna get off. I don't think it's a coincidence that just as people of color and people who are not cis men started making their way into the industry, that all this shit started happening, okay? So we're not gonna take it. Yeah, okay, thank you, Milton, for giving me a soapbox. And thank you all for being here. We'll win this, guys. We will win this. Thank you.
Okay, so there are a couple more organizations and partners. I just want to note that this event, this movement that is created from the Asian Pacific Filmmakers Experience has been birthed out of that same passion for representation. I know that the conversation around diversity, equity, inclusion has kind of become a soundbite in a lot of ways over the years, but for us, it's always been this. These are actual people, these are actual artists that we know that we are, and that we work volunteer-based to make sure that we can create spaces like this. We fundraise, we donate, we do all this work on top of the work that we're already doing to build our own careers. So I just want to acknowledge that because everybody involved in this has been so instrumental in making a space for all of us to be in a space like this together. And without this, nothing happens and nothing moves. So I just want to acknowledge all the volunteers, and with that, also want to acknowledge a few more other partners, because at every film festival that we go to, we've actually been amazingly able to partner with other grassroots organizations. So for example, at South by Southwest, we partner with the Austin Asian American Film Festival. It's become such a partnership, such a coalition builder. We're so grateful. And now I want to acknowledge our partner for this amazing event, to acknowledge the Tribeca filmmakers that are API. We have Asian Cinevision, and we can without Kayla and Eunice and the team, we love you guys so much for giving me this space.
Thank you. No, that's exactly it. This is our livelihood. This is us fighting to be heard and seen and to actually be able to live off of sharing our stories and our experiences, and it's so important. I'm Kayla, if you don't know. Thank you, Angie. And this is Eunice. We're with Asian Cinevision. We host a film festival after this one. The Asian American International Film Festival. It is at the end of July 26th to August 6th. Put it on your calendar. But we are the first and longest running festival for Asian diaspora storytellers in the country. Since the 70s, right? This fight has been going on for over 50 years, and we are here because we want to hear your stories, and we are so happy to be able to see all of these great filmmakers making it up. Not making it up. Going up! They're making it up, and we're making it up. But yeah, I want to thank you guys. Yes. Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. Thank you. That was it. Okay, here you go, Richie. It was a great panel.
Oh, okay, that's good. Thank you. All right, so with that, give it up one more time for Asian Cinevision. We have been so patient. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy the food, the bites. Thank you to Sour Mouse. We need to shout out Sour Mouse for hosting us. And with that, we're going to move into our panel discussion. We have Kat Moon from TV Guide Journalist.
Hi, can I invite all of the speakers on here? How are you all doing today? Hello. First of all, I just want to say this is already the best panel ever because we have dim sum. I did not expect shrimp dumplings and egg tarts, so thank you so much to the organizers. And we have this amazing panel today. I do want to say that I found out it's 2 of their birthdays today. So they said not to. Is it okay if we sing happy birthday? I know there are some Broadway singers here, so I just singing only. Okay, let's go. Oh, it's Annelise and Jen's birthday. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Annelise. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much. So as Mindy said, I'm Kat Moon. I'm a writer at TV Guide, and I've covered entertainment and Asian representation the past few years. I'm so excited to be here right now and to have the opportunity to speak to these wonderful filmmakers about their films that are being screened at Tribeca. So first, can we have everyone go down the line to briefly introduce yourselves, and you can give 1 or 2 sentences about what your film is about and also your role in it. You can start with Annelise.
Cool, love going first, not nervous at all. My name's Annelise Hickey. I'm from Nam, aka Melbourne in Australia. The film I'm a writer-director, and the film that I made is called HAFEKASI, which means half-caste in Tomine. The film's about a 10-year-old girl called Mona, who's brown, and she lives with a single white mum, and she's navigating culture and identity in 90s Australia.
Hi everyone, my name is Jaya. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm here for the film we just made with my director. It's entitled Asog. Asog is about a description of a gay, and it talks about the real situation happening in the society that had happened. It's a story of a struggling gay, and how he copes up with life. That's it. Thank you.
My name's Sean. I'm the director. I'm based in Vancouver, and yeah, we wrote it together. We're both also comedians, so there's struggle, there's drama, but there's also a lot of laughs. Okay.
Hi everyone. My name's Adrian Tomine. I wrote the film Shortcomings, which is also based on a book of mine from a long time ago, directed by Randall Park, and it's hard for me. I'm the worst person to promote it. Like, I want Randall to get here and take over for me, but it was a very kind of personal story that I wrote in my 20s, and it really is just kind of a relationship drama comedy. 3 or 4 main characters in the Bay Area end up in New York, but it was I'll talk about it later, but it was sort of something that was sort of a challenge for myself to. It was a career challenge. I've been writing work that was more kind of generic prior to that, and I sort of was feeling this from my readership to do something that was more personal, that was more specifically Asian American, and so this was my response to it.
I'm HP Mendoza. I'm coming in from San Francisco. I am the director, editor, composer of The Secret Art of Human Flight, which is the first film I directed that I didn't write, but I got to my director's pass, which is extensive. And I don't want to say too much about that because we have a conversation going on, but I want to point out that I intended to bring my hardcover copy of Shortcomings for Adrian to sign because I bought it in 2007 when me and my husband first met. And we were like, oh my God, this is us, because we're in San Francisco and we went to Berkeley all the time. And I intended to bring it, and that thing is worth $70 now, and I left it at the airport.
Oh my God. We have to get the news out there so that someone can find it for you. My name is Taylor, and I'm a producer on a film called Somewhere Quiet. And this is Jennifer Kim, our amazing lead actress of the film. The film is it's like a horror film about the final girl and kind of what happens after the credits roll, and just how the actual horrors of readjusting to the mundane normalcy of life. I have a second film here, which is premiering tonight, which I should plug. It's called The Graduates, and the director's name is Hannah Peterson, and it's kind of, also surprisingly, a film about like the aftermath when the cameras go away of a traumatic incident at a school. So anyway, to Jen.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kim, and I'm an actor in Somewhere Quiet. You've heard the synopsis, so that's it.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. I'm very excited that we have writers, directors, actors, and now we're going to dive a little bit more into each of the films, starting with Annelise. So can you share about what inspired HAFEKASI and also why it's important to you to tell a story about Pacific Islander experience?
Cool, I so shouldn't have sat here. Right, number one. HAFEKASI was inspired by my own life experience. I grew up in what we call in Tongan Palangi community, so white community, and I guess the story is about trying to find belonging and your people. Even if you come from like the best family ever, shout out mum over there. I guess in Melbourne, Australia's like, our population's like 26 million, which is nothing to America, but the Polynesian community is like less than 400,000, so it's really hard to find community and people who look like you. So I think making this film, it gave me a really great excuse to work with a lot of Polynesian people, because we had lots of Polynesian actors and singers, and as a filmmaker, it was like such a dream to bring all these amazing artists together and create, you know, like when you're working with crews and cast, like you become a family. So we became a family for the whole project. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I guess it's important for me to make stories like this because I wish I'd seen them growing up. That's, I guess, my aim as a director is to make things I wish I'd see myself reflected in media. And I think there's I live in diaspora, obviously. I think there's a lot of people in the Polynesian community who live in diaspora who feel like their stories aren't being told. And maybe that's, who knows why, like, so I think there's room for those stories to be told. And
Yeah,
wrap it up there.
That is great. You were not rambling. HAFEKASI, I mean, I've watched the film and all of the films. I highly recommend all of them. And for you, it's premiering tonight. And I do think you touch on so much about, you know, the search for identity, belonging, and also adoption. So a lot to unpack there, which we can share more about later. So, and I also wanted to ask for Jaya and Shung, can you talk about how you two got connected and why you decided to tell the story of Jaya?
Jaya is very modest, so I have the cooler version of this story. So I'm a stand-up comedian by trade. I also make films. I film primarily on Leyte Island in the Philippines, where my mother is from. And it's also where Typhoon Haiyan hit 10 years ago, which you probably saw in the news. If you saw photos of that, you saw that island, Leyte. So on the 1-year anniversary of that storm, I was making this documentary. And because I'm a comedian, I can only go so long without laughing. And even though, very seriously, 10,000 people passed away in that storm. So it was like a very heavy time. But I asked someone, I said, is there comedy in this city? And they said, oh, you should go see Jaya's show. And I said, oh, when is that? And they said, it's tonight, on the anniversary of the storm. And I thought, oh, it's an interesting choice. And I went to this show, and Jaya's doing jokes, and then there's also karaoke in Filipino comedy. So throughout the night, they bring people on stage to sing, and every person who came on stage chose to sing the favorite song of a loved one who they had lost in the storm. So as they were singing, they would start crying, and then everybody in this room would start crying together. And after all that, Jaya would come out on stage and start telling jokes. And it was like that over and over throughout the night, and I had never seen anything like it. And so I came up to them afterwards and I said, I need to work with you. And that was 9 years ago. And tomorrow we're premiering our film.
Congratulations, that's amazing. Jaya, do you have anything to add?
Oh my God, I never in my dream had I imagined ever reaching this far without knowing this person. I mean, I was totally contented with my life as a local performer, as a host, as a teacher, as an educator in my locality, as an entertainer at night, as a guy who has a love life, as a teacher who has a student, as a person who has a role in the community. And so, when this opportunity came to me, oh my gosh, what will I say? What a life. There's more to life to accept, to embrace, and I can't express, words are beyond express with the feeling I have now. This is my first time to be in the international travel, ever my first time.
First New York hangover this morning. Okay.
Amazing, thank you both so much. And then for Adrian, I wanted to ask, sorry, I'm also figuring out how to reorient myself as I talk, but for Adrian, I wanted to ask, can you talk about what inspired your graphic novel, Shortcomings, and what was the process like of adapting it for screen?
Yeah, I'll try and be brief because I can talk a long time about both these things. But what inspired it was, I alluded to this earlier, which is I'd already been making comics for a number of years when I did the book. And prior to it, I'd been sort of ambiguous in my character design. They weren't necessarily Asian. It was just sort of, and it wasn't really made clear. And the more I met readers and critics and journalists, I started to get the sense that was starting to bother bother certain people. And I was getting, especially from Asian American press, a lot of questions about if I was intentionally, hiding my identity or something like that. And that was, it kind of took me aback, I think. And so I felt like at that point I could go, an artist has kind of two ways of handling criticism, and one is to like dig your heels in and say like, well, screw you or whatever, and then the other is to sort of listen and try and make adjustments if you think it is reasonable, and that seemed like that seemed natural to me at that point. Even though I was at a pretty young and rebellious stage in life, it got through to me, and I sat down and just gave myself the challenge of, let me create a story that features characters who are, I'm gonna give them Asian last names and be very explicit about their identity. But let me make the version of that I've always wanted to see, whether it was a book or a movie or whatever, which mainly not for any kind of grand reasons, but just my own aesthetics leans towards quotidian, real life, personal things. So it was, from the start I knew it wasn't going to be about exceptional people. It wasn't going to be about, because it's comics, people think, it's got to be superheroes with powers and things like that. And I wanted to do something that was really almost like a snapshot of the life that I was living and the friends that I knew at that time in the Bay Area and New York. And so that's where the book came from. And in terms of adapting the book, again, I'll try and be brief, but when we started making this film, it was the first time that someone said to me, like, okay, are we going to do it as a period piece? And I was like, what do you mean a period? Oh shit, it's been 20 years since this thing came out. And I suddenly felt very old, and I never go back and look at my work, so I had to like get the book out, and I looked through it and I was like, oh my god, there's scenes where the guys are like angrily slamming down landlines. Yeah, there's a part where a guy actually has to fly to New York to see something. Like his friends in New York and says, I want you to see something, so you have to get on a plane and come see it. So there were, when I went back, I was like, okay, we either have to very clearly make this a period piece, or we got to update it. And a lot of it came down to economics. It was like, do we want to spend an extra $1 million just to have like a Toyota Corolla from 2003 in the background? Like, is that going to really add anything to the story? So the adaptation process was not just from one medium to another, but from one era to another, really, to go from the early 2000s to the present day. And that involved not just physical things like cars and phones, but language, dress, attitudes. So it was a big challenge, and one that I really enjoyed. That was a great experience for me, and I felt like most authors never get a second chance with a book, but once it's in print, you got to live with it. And so this was a chance for me to fix things that I didn't like about the book, and the updating process was, it was educational for me, as well as as a person and as an artist. So that was the big challenge, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And definitely looks like a film set in today once you do watch it now.
Thank you.
Yes. And then for HP, I do want to ask, you're known for writing and directing Asian American led films. Can you talk about the lead characters in your new film and how this experience was different for you?
So I want to back up like almost 20 years to when I premiered here at ACB with Colma the Musical. I got a lot of flack from people at the time, from Asian American luminaries and leads and leaders who would say like, oh, so this is what you want to put out for young Filipino people to see. You basically have like this stoner who doesn't go to college. And I feel this. I'm like, equality means also allowing us to be non-exceptional. Like, we have a right to be mediocre. And it's hard to navigate that. This was like 2006. It was hard to navigate that while getting critiques from other people saying it's not Asian enough, it's not gay enough. So then, of course, I did Fruit Fly after that, which was like twice as gay and twice as Asian. And what's interesting about that is I think I started caving into the exceptionalism a little bit, and everything has been a little bit of a battle. Like I have two identities. to negotiate with a third identity of a storyteller. So what's interesting for me with The Secret Art of Human Flight, you like that segue? Yeah, with The Secret Art of Human Flight, which we just had a premiere of on the 8th, had a second screening last night, and we have another one on Tuesday. This is the first one I didn't write, and I think the cheeky way to say this is my first white movie. But really what it is it's the first film that isn't queer, that isn't Asian, but I got to inject a lot of what my stamp is by saying, hey, so this script, and you're giving me a director's pass. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't specify what the ethnicity is, I'm not going to assume white. Like, you already cast the lead characters, but you didn't cast anyone else. And I was like, let's populate the shit out of this film with like brown and black people. And what I was really focusing on was the fact that, for all intents and purposes, The Secret Art of Human Flight is a dead wife movie. It's about a guy grieving over the death of his wife, and he goes on the dark web for solace, like you do, and he finds this book that purports to teach people how to fly like a bird. And he orders it, and he gets more than he bargained for by receiving the book. And the guru who wrote it, played by Paul Raci, Oscar nominee from Sound of Metal, and a huge Filipino ally, let me just say. And I remember saying, you guys know what a dead wife is, right? Can we talk about this? Like, you guys know, we don't know what the wife's name is. And they're like, oh, her name's Sarah. I'm like, yeah, because you're reading the script, but for the most part, characters are calling her your wife. And you're saying, my wife. And they were like, well, we'll just make a few changes. I said, or you let me write a character. And so we cast Reina Hardesty, who's of Japanese descent, and she's the first face you see, and she's the heart of the film. And it felt really good to give myself up to somebody else's script, premiere it, and have everyone say, boy, this sure feels like an Asian Mendoza film. That means a lot to me.
I'm feeling so inspired hearing all of this. Is anyone else feeling inspired? And then last but not least, for Taylor and Jen, I wanted to ask about Somewhere Quiet. So, these days we still very rarely see Asian women-led films, including in the horror thriller genre, which your film is. And so I'm wondering, with this movie, in what ways do you hope you can push representation forward in the thriller horror space?
I'll say that every time I get to make a movie, I feel incredibly lucky because it is so hard to make a film. And it is a really exciting time, specifically with Asian American stories or Asian cinema, because it's just entering this new phase where it's allowed to kind of progress in not a linear way, and it can be expansive. I think that's really exciting. And so to see a film that gets to have an Asian lead is to Annelise, your point, it's you start to get drawn to things you haven't seen before, and you just want to see, and you can let it be what it is, and it can be messy, and it can be kind of, but fun, and so I think that's really great. And I think there's just you have to create the thing that you want to see a bit, and just giving more opportunities for Asian leads is exciting.
As an actor, it was so special to get a script like that, because I never get the opportunity to delve deep into something so rich and be considered for the lead, and let alone in a horror movie, unless you're your hair is covered and you're crawling on the floor, it's and as an actor, it's really hard because you don't have any power. You're waiting to be picked, and you're waiting to be told you can do the thing that you want to do. And so you have a lot of responsibility when you're even auditioning for certain types of characters. A lot of times when you're starting out, everyone's just to do everything, do whatever you comes your way. But when it's offensive and not what you want to be putting out in the world, and it's difficult to find your balance of what you're being pressured to be this is what you have to do in order to be successful, or try to dig out your own way through all of it. And it has been really special because I've always acted since I was really little, and there was no one. I mean, Margaret Cho, and God bless her, But even when I decided to pursue it, I went to college for it. It wasn't even in my mind that this could be an actual career. It was just I wanted, if I could do anything in the world, what would it be? It was this thing that I've loved to do since I was a child. And I've been really lucky because there have been so many performers before me where the opportunities are opening up more and more, and I feel it and I see it. And like, I know so many actors who are older than me that it wasn't that available to them. And I feel so grateful for them and all the shoulders that I'm standing on. And I just, sorry, now I'm rambling, but the movie in itself, like it was just so special. And I felt so lucky to have been picked and like work with these wonderful, like life-changing people, like who cared and took care of you in a way and like held you. It was very dark, scary space to be in my head. And like, I felt so supported. And when I think of it, it's just love that I think of. Like the shoot was amazing. And that's what it's really about, is like the experience of doing. And so I'm just grateful. And Olivia, our director, is here, and I love you.
Thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause to Jen being the lead of this film? Amazing. And then I also do want to say Taylor is actually a producer on the film Past Lives as well, which she did not mention. Last week, I cried for 40 minutes watching that movie last week, so thank you for the tears.
I'm so proud. Greta is a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, and I'm like, yes!
Love it, love it. And then moving on, I do want to ask all of you, what are the conversations that you hope your film will start? And we can start with Jen and Taylor for this.